Alright, here we go. So, welcome to episode 2. This one is called, I think, at least it should be called this, is What is Needed to Get Started. And so, the idea behind this episode is like, what does a songwriter need in order to start writing songs? So, I've asked this question to a couple people, and if you look behind me, it is way more than what a songwriter actually needs. I'm a bit of a gear hound, if you can't tell. That started for me largely with guitars and guitar pedals and stuff, which you can see the plethora. That's actually just a small amount. There's down below right here. There's a board with more pedals on it, and there's more guitars than I've seen and stuff. But um, I asked a number one hit songwriter, a guy I got to talk with in Nashville. I said, what's the basics of what do you need to write a song? Like, what does it take to be a songwriter as far as gear goes? His answer to me was an iPhone, and yourself, a notepad, you know, something to get your ideas down, something to write them down. An iPhone does really well for both of those. And, I was a little shocked. I thought, oh, you need this and you need that. And, again, I'm a little bit of a gear hound, and there's more to it than that. I'll probably get into that more later. Um, the quick explainer is I actually, during my time of being a software engineer and not being a professional musician, I did get to help track and record a CD. I got to help build a recording studio. I got to help mix that CD. And I learned a lot, and I became, you know, I learned a lot during that time. So and I spent 10 years running live sound for a church. So I've been around the gear and stuff for a while. So for me, it's a little bit more of a love and appreciation of the gear, and I like having it to be able to do stuff. But it's certainly not needed. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this episode. So basically, all you need really is your ideas and a way to record them. Because almost certainly, as soon as you have an idea within a minute or less, you're going to lose it. And as soon as that idea or that moment, that feeling comes to you, you want to be able to record it. That's whether it's writing the lyrics down, whether it's writing the melody, recording the melody, like in a voice note or something. And there are a number of different tools out there you can use, whether you're using an iPhone or whether you're using an Android device. I mean, it's just you need something that you're comfortable with, that you can use, that you can get ideas down quickly. Like, let's say you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to record an idea. I know guys who've done this at 2 a.m. They get a song idea and it's like, it's go time, and they get up and they start working on it. And you want to be able to record that if you just want to remember it for the morning and then come back to it later. A lot of times for me, I'll come up with a lyric idea and there will be a melody associated with it. Like it's a hook or something like that. And there's a melody with it. I hear them both at the same time, which is kind of interesting. And I write down the words, and it can be a week or two later. I go back to the words and I rehear the melody. I just kind of know what it is already because it came with the words. I have no idea how to explain that. It's just kind of how it works for me. Sometimes I change it, sometimes I don't. A lot of times I don't. It ends up being that, or I build out from it, as I talked about in episode 1, I think. Um, Anyways, have something just basically to record the ideas with. Pencil, paper. I mean, it's getting a little old fashioned now. But if that works for you, that's great. Have a notebook. Just write things down. Even if you don't have the ability at all to play an instrument, you can still do stuff. You can hum it and all that, and then you just start building your musical network. And I'll talk more about that again in future episodes. Of people who can help you do stuff that you can't do, and you'll find out as you work on songwriting or as you're becoming a songwriter that the people around you and the people you connect with in music and in songwriting is really important. And again, we'll go into that more in the future. Um, so basics: an iPhone, a notepad, a voice recorder, just something to get your ideas down so you don't forget them, and then you can go back and work on them. Now let's go from there. If you have a laptop or even an iPad, those are great tools to start building out the song with. Um, like I work in a Mac environment. I don't think you can tell from this. Maybe no, you can't really see it. But my studio computer back here, Lord, I can't figure out what the camera's backwards for me. is a Mac. What I'm recording on now is a Mac, and everything I do is it's just I've been in the Apple world for 15, 20 years. Just what I like. You can use a Windows box. You can use Linux if you're into that. Fewer options in Linux, but Windows certainly has a lot of stuff. Um, but I'm going to talk from the perspective I know the best, and that's probably Apple, iPad. You know, as a basic DAW, which is digital audio workstation, where you build out your music from, it could be something like GarageBand. That comes with Apple products. You can get others really inexpensive or free, like I think PreSonus Studio One will come with some devices if you buy an interface. And I may talk a little bit about interfaces in this. I'm not sure. Like I said, this is very unscripted, so I'm kind of going off the cuff here. Um, but let's see. I have a small list of workstations here. So GarageBand's probably the most well-known free one, and you can do that on an iPad. You can do it on an iPhone. You can do it certainly on the laptop or a desktop. Apple Logic is the big brother of that one. Apple Logic is probably the one of the two biggest digital audio workstations you'll see in studios, like when you start working with other groups, depending upon the genre you're in. Like I work a lot, like country is kind of my focus, and that's mostly probably what you'll hear me talk about on this channel. But I think what I talk about will apply really regardless of the genre. But you like in R&B and hip hop, you know, maybe you might see something more like I think it's called Fruity Loop, FL Studio, originally called Fruity Loops. And then you get into other ones like less well-known ones. Well, Cakewalk's pretty well-known. It's big on the PC side. Digital Performers are lesser well-known one. That was the first DAW I used just because a friend used it and he knew and showed me how and stuff early on. And then the Big Daddy, probably the biggest one, is Pro Tools, and that's actually what I'm using. I will say that most songwriters don't use Pro Tools. I will say most. Not, there are some who do. They learn it. And that's largely because Pro Tools is kind of the studio standard. Now, as I mentioned, Apple Logic is the other one that's used big in the studios, and I think now they're probably even. I can't speak that from experience. I haven't been in a lot of studios, but people I talk to, it's either Pro Tools or it's Apple Logic. Now, typically, what happens is if somebody is doing a lot of recording of audio, like they're doing, let's say live recording, not like in a live performance sense, but if they're recording acoustic instruments, and that could be an electric guitar, right, in a studio, but they're recording the audio of the instrument, and that's largely what they're doing is recording audio and doing stuff with audio, Pro Tools is the go-to. It was just kind of built for that from the get-go, and studios really use that. Pro Tools can record an extraordinary amount of tracks simultaneously, depending upon your hardware. Now, songwriters typically seem to prefer, from what I've seen, is generally speaking, is Apple Logic because it's easier to work with MIDI. MIDI is it's a format for representing music. Kind of go read it. It's MIDI. And if you Google MIDI, you can learn more about it. And I'm not going to get into explaining it here. But MIDI is what allows the keyboard to talk to the computer. It's a way of representing notes and music in time, length of notes, all that kind of stuff. And so Apple Logic is a little easier to work in that sense. Pro Tools is not known for being easy to work with as far as MIDI goes. So if you're using a keyboard and soft instruments or just, how did you describe this? Non-audio based instruments, like you're not recording the live audio, then Apple Logic may be the better one to go to. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the precursor to that is GarageBand. So that's generally the ones you'll see. I mean, again, it depends. I got a guy in Atlanta who's a friend of mine, and I don't know if he's doing Cakewalk. I can't remember, but he's doing something totally like, I don't know that I've heard of that before. And that's okay. It's his workflow. It's how he likes to work. And then, when he gets, does something in it, he creates something called stems, which are the audio files, and they get transferred to a studio or to whoever ordered them from him. And then, they can pull those into Pro Tools or whatever they're using. And, there's a workflow that everybody can work with, even if they are doing different environments. But the two big ones are Logic and Pro Tools. But as a starting songwriter, all you really need is, something to record your idea with, and then, a way to build it out. Again, GarageBand is probably a great one to start with if you have an Apple. If you have a PC, I would think you can do something like Presonus Studio One. That one's showing a lot of promise from what I've seen. I'm trying to think if there are any other good ones. Um, there probably are. And if you go and Google DAW, you'll see the whole list probably on Wikipedia and all the ones that are out there. But I've mentioned the ones that I know the best and I think are more well known. So this brings me to the audio interface. So the audio interface is a way to get, probably a microphone, a vocal into the computer. If you don't know what that is, there are tons of them out there, anywhere from, I guess starting at $50 all the way up to thousands of dollars. And I probably need to do a little more research before I talk about them. But you can look at something by Focusrite. The Scarlett series is really good, entry level stuff. You can buy one from Presonus. I don't have an opinion whether it's better or worse than Focusrite. I mean, I'm sure you'll hear plenty of opinions out there. You can do the research. But if you get something by Presonus, I think it comes with Studio One for free. Otherwise, Studio One does cost something. I think Apple GarageBand is the only free one that I'm aware of. Oh, and Pro Tools Intro used to be called Pro Tools Free. You can get as well. And most of the DAWs, they do not require an interface. But if you want to record audio signals into them with a microphone, then you would. The exception to that is if you want to use a USB microphone. And this is a good segue into the other thing I wanted to mention. Right now, what I'm working on and recording with in this video is a USB microphone. And it's probably the best one that I've found for portability, for sound quality, and everything else. I mean, I love it. I have two. One travels with me. It's the one I take with me if I have to travel somewhere and I want to get an idea down. I wonder if you guys can hear that truck going by. I guess we'll find out. This one's called the Elgato Wave 3. Now, you may have heard of that. It's big in gaming communities. It's Elgato makes a lot of gaming stuff for streaming online gamers, that kind of thing. They make a microphone. They make a number of different stuff. I found this microphone to be really good. One reason is, and this may mean something to you or not, is that the capsule in it is actually made by a company called Lewitt, or at least they helped design it. I don't know all the details on that, but Lewitt's a very well-known microphone manufacturer, and they make mics ranging anywhere from $100 up to several thousand. So they're a really good company. They're the ones that helped design the capsule for this microphone, and hopefully you can hear that it's a really good mic. It does great at recording. One of my favorite things about it is it has a built-in, oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Like I said, totally unfiltered here. And I should know this word. It has a built-in limiter or compressor. So you can't easily overdrive the microphone. There's a guy out there who does a YouTube channel that does microphone examples. Or demos. You can look him up, and he kind of demos this feature of it, or any of the guys who are out there in YouTube land demoing it. But basically, no matter how loud you talk or play, you're not gonna overdrive the mic, and it's not gonna sound bad. And that's probably one of the things I love about it the most. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about my sound levels getting too hot. Don't have to worry about the mic getting too hot. It'll get the recording and do well. So that's the Elgato Wave 3. If I remember, I'll put a link down below. I don't know, maybe it's an affiliate link or something. I'm not really worried about any of that right now, but you can get them at Best Buy. You can get them probably at any stores, even online. You can find it certainly on Amazon. So, I'm not suggesting one retailer over another, but I will say you can occasionally find them on sale for about 30% off, and you just got to watch for that, probably especially around like Black Friday and Christmas and all that, or if they're coming out with a new version of it. So, other well-known microphones, USB microphones, are the Audio-Technica 2020. That one's pretty well-known. Rode the NT Mini, and then Rode the NT1 USB. I think they make a USB version. I've obviously not researched this before I recorded, again, unfiltered. But those Rode makes really good stuff. But any good USB microphone would be would work. Um, but this one in particular, again, because you can't easily overdrive it or distort it because of the built-in limiting capability that it has. So that's awesome. Um, I'm going to have to edit this. No, you know what? I'm going to leave this in because, like I said, unfiltered. So at the moment, I can't think of anything else I want to say for this episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, please put them down below. And as a farewell, captain your ship, enjoy the ride, raise the tide.